Jeremy and his wife, Winnie, retired for a life of adventure in their mid-30s with over $1 million in assets after working exactly 10 years.
Little did they know that their adventure would include little ones. They now travel the world with their son, Julian,
who is the cutest thing ever, and Gwen and I had a chance to stay with them on a houseboat when we went to FinCon together, and Jeremy is a tax genius, hack advisor extraordinaire, and his blog, Go Curry Cracker, is one of the biggest blogs right now in the financial independence community, and he's just so knowledgeable. Now today, we did not want to talk with Jeremy about all of the usual things regarding their story that everyone talks to him about. All of that information is on his website, gocurrycracker.com. I highly recommend that you check it out.
Keep in mind that this was recorded during the Chinese New Year, where they light off lots and lots and lots of firecrackers, which you will hear in the background.
And that's the best thing because that fits with the life that he has right now. I mean, he has the freedom to be calling us from the middle of the day, enjoying Chinese New Year and living the free financially independent lifestyle. So just keep in mind that the audio is a little bit interesting, but we hopefully got Jeremy to tell some different stories since he's been on a lot of podcasts, and we're always excited when we talk to Jeremy.
Welcome to Fire Drill Podcast, where side hustles, savings, and creativity lead to financial independence. With your hosts, Gwen from Fiery Millennials and Jay from Millennial Boss.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Fire Drill Podcast. Jay and I are very excited to have our friend on the show today. Welcome Jeremy Jacobson from Go Curry Cracker.
Hello, thanks for having me.
We're delighted, and of course I couldn't do this without my co-host Jay.
Hello.
So Jeremy, tell us where you're at, what's going on right now, and your brief 90-second elevator speech.
Yes, hi. We are calling live from Taipei, Taiwan, where we're doing our best to act like normal people after 5 years of doing nothing but kind of full-time travel around the globe. You know, life's good. We have our almost 3-year-old kid now. We just got back from Vietnam. He's now been to 29 countries. And we are doing all kinds of normal people things, like going to painting classes and going on long bike rides and stuff. And it's been pretty nice to just kind of chill from the travel for a little while and hang out in one place. You know, not to, we don't want to do that forever. We're kind of looking at kind of extended travel coming up this summer, maybe going back to Europe for the 3rd year in a row, do 3 or 4 months there, and we'll see what happens.
Gosh, I don't know if I could handle you guys going back to Europe. Your photos from Czechoslovakia and places like that were so beautiful. I couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a professional photographer, you know, who takes all my photos for me. And right, because I take photos and people are like, what the hell is that? I mean, it's dark and fuzzy, but you know, we have full-time photo crew coming along. It makes everything better.
Yeah, everyone, if you're not already following Jeremy and Winnie and Julian on Instagram, go to Go Curry Cracker. That's their Instagram handle, and it's awesome.
So, Jeremy, why don't we talk about the three of us history real fast, just to let everybody know some of our past that we've done. I would start with you and me, but it actually started before that.
It did. So my husband and I went to the Chautauqua in Ecuador in 2015, and Jeremy was one of the headlining bloggers there. The two of us went absolutely knowing close to nothing about money or personal finance. I don't know why we signed up. We definitely didn't belong there. But luckily, Jeremy was really awesome, and we had a one-on-one with him, and he completely inspired us, and the other bloggers and the other people did there too. So it was a really cool week in Ecuador. We had a great time.
Yeah, I thought it was a great time. You know, one of the really cool things, actually, hold on here, because it looks like they're doing some Chinese New Year fireworks downstairs. So let's let that finish, and then I'll start over.
It kind of does go with the theme, though, of the life that you're living right now.
Kind of does.
Yeah, so there's this thing where, like, over the course of Chinese New Year, like, everybody takes time off, right? Like, they go kind of back towards wherever they grew up and visit family and everything. And so, all the businesses close. Then when they come back, they're like, you know, oh, we got to, like, scare away the evil spirits or whatever. And so they do, like, these dragon dances and then, like, a ton of fireworks for, like, the reopening of the store. And so, for, like, a couple weeks, you basically just have, like, this giant set of firecrackers and stuff going off all the time.
That could be equal parts awesome and equal parts incredibly irritating, depending on what you're trying to do.
You know, like if you're trying to record a podcast or something, it's kind of irritating.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. Okay, they're done.
Okay, so back to the Chautauqua.
Yeah. So the really cool thing about being like maybe a finance blogger or just being able to kind of share your story is you can give people just like a little bit of motivation, and then you can be impressed by where they go with that and what they label. And so, you know, like Jay and Mr. J, they totally just like seized the bull by the horns and made stuff happen. And now look at them, they're like world famous bloggers.
It's true, they're superstars.
I don't know about that, but our money story has definitely improved tremendously. So, yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Gwen, you want to tell the next part of the story?
Jay and I met online a couple months after both of us attended the Chautauqua at that point, and we bonded online and we became friends. And then we were trying to figure out a housing situation for FinCon. I was like, hey, let's be roommates. She's like, I got my husband. We're going to be roommates. And I was like, oh, bummer. But she was like, hey, let's rent a 2-bedroom place and we can hang out together. And I was like, sold. And then she's like this houseboat. Ha ha ha. Like no one would ever want a houseboat. But then she didn't know that I'm a weirdo and I love houseboats. And I was like, let's do the houseboat. Yes.
We stayed on the houseboat with Jeremy and Winnie and Julian for the weekend, and it was awesome. And what I was most impressed with was how they handled the travel with a small child. So Julian was so awesome and so cute. And like, I just remember seeing you guys leaving the houseboat with like 2 backpacks and a stroller, and you just like took all of your possessions and just had them on your body and were walking towards the taxi or whatever took you to the airport. And I was just, it was like crazy. And it definitely opened up my mind, because I used to think, oh, if we have kids someday, then like everything's over. You know, you can't do travel or you can't do this and your life's basically done. And that has not been the case at all. I mean, I think, what has Julian been to, like 28 countries now?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So that's kind of like what I want to talk about first. I mean, what tips do you have for traveling with a kid, and how do you do it? Like, what are the things you need to consider?
So traveling with kids is basically, like everybody does kind of think like, oh, you know, like traveling with kids, it's impossible. And you have to give them, you know, they have to hang out with the grandparents 24/7 and like all the cousins, and they have to go to school and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of like the normal way of living. And, you know, it's true that those things have benefits, but let's be practical here, you know. Having Skype, having things like that, you can build all these relationships and maintain them while you're actually kind of, you know, rather than say being trapped in an apartment in Toronto in the middle of winter with kids. You can be like on a beach in Mexico, or you can be, you know, exploring like you know, interesting places in the jungle in like Thailand and so on. That kind of environment gives kids benefits as well. So there's pros and cons. So Julian's now been to 29 countries. And he's just about 3 years old, so that's around 1 country a month. And we've just been doing like this kind of following the weather, as we start in Asia, and then we went to Europe for like 4 months, and then the US for a couple months, and then back to Asia again. And we try to provide like a little bit of routine for him, you know, so that even though we're in a new place, things are somewhat familiar. And there's the constant of he's always with his parents 24 hours a day. And then we do like kind of bedtime routine where we read books together, and we'll, you know, kind of do like the calm down period before sleep. And so he knows the routine and it feels familiar. And then we do preparation for like the next leg. We have like a destination where we're definitely headed to. We've rented places in advance, and we kind of talk to him about where we're going next. And then you'll see like stories of people who, you know, like that they'll share like the horror story of like the children on the airplane or whatever. And we'll do sensible things like try to, you know, minimize the number of like really long trips. So we try to do like, you know, 2 to 4 hour sort of flights, and you know, you don't need to get there today. We can take our time. And when we do have long flights, like say like Asia to Europe, we'll plan things like, you know, we have new toys, or at least new to him, you know, or like new sticker books, new coloring books, things that he hasn't played with for a while. And so you you can roll them out every so often so that he gets really excited about something to do on the airplane. And if you can time things around naps and so on, then he can sleep through a lot of like the journey part of things. And so for him, what's his normal life? He loves the airport. He gets excited about going on airplanes and trains and so on. And he would get to like a new Airbnb, and he's like I'm gonna check this place out, right? And he like takes off and he runs through the place and like explores all the rooms, and he picks his bedroom. He's like, this one's mine, right? And then he'll come back and kind of report to us about like anything interesting he found, and he's like, hey, let's go to the park. We'll go hang out at the park together, do the slides and the swings. It's the same everywhere. He plays with the kids we meet there, and they try to figure out between the Chinese and English how to communicate together, and then it's like time to eat. Let's go find a restaurant. We kind of let him sort of lead the way and pick things, and so everything that child needs, like he has it. He also has a little bit of adventure kind of mixed in. He's got routine and education opportunities, like everything. It's all you need.
Do you guys ever want a babysitter? Like when you're traveling, do you ever want a night out to yourselves, and what do you do then?
And do we want it? Sure. We haven't done anything like sort of babysitter-esque beyond, say, family. Like if we're in Taiwan or in parts of the U.S., we're hanging out with friends and family, we'll get like a couple hours every now and then where we have somebody watch them. But Winnie and I are able to spend like 24 hours a day together, and when Julian's napping or at night when he's asleep, we can get like quality time together. So we haven't really felt like this like burning desire, like, oh, we want to go out to eat with like just the two of us, or like we want to go to a movie together, or something like that. Mostly what we're interested in when we have time is just like quiet time and some chill time.
I see. So we're going to link to your blog, and I think a lot of people are familiar with your story, and you've been on a lot of podcasts, so we don't want to ask you your story. But I think what would be helpful is if you give us an update. I mean, has your investment strategy changed at all? Are you in any new entrepreneurial ventures, or are you still sticking with your same equity-based portfolio?
So my overall like investment philosophy is that like it should be as boring as possible. Like I don't want to be excited about investing, and I don't want to be excited about what's happened in the market. So I just set up this simple, mostly equity-based portfolio, and I basically don't do anything, and I don't pay attention to it. Over the course of the last 6 years or so, it's basically just grown by leaps and bounds, which is nice, but also really boring. And I don't really want to think about it or change it or do anything. So we're not going to try to chase performance. We're not going to try to find like the next big thing. We just invest in the market and let it go.
So you're not in Bitcoin.
What's that?
Exactly. So one interesting thing I learned, I was listening to your podcast episode with PT Money, and you were saying about how when you had student loans back in the day, or also while you were paying off your house and trying to eliminate PMI, you looked into 0% interest credit cards and used that as a hack. Can you explain what you did, and would you still recommend that for someone in debt or who has a mortgage today?
The overall strategy that I employed at the time, like I had 7-8% sort of interest rates on my student loans. And anything less than 7 or 8% is better, right? Lower interest rates are better. I just happened upon offers in the mail saying, would you like a 0% interest rate for a year and no fee sort of advance checks? I thought, I'll use these to pay off my student loans. Yeah? And so I went from like a 12-month period where instead of paying 8%, I was paying 0%, and I was able to then pay extra for the loans. I was able to basically accelerate sort of my time to be in debt free that way. And because of like how well that worked, I eventually had an offer for, I think I owed something like $10,000 on the mortgage before I could get to like 80% loan to value, right? So like that was the point where I could eliminate PMI. And I got this offer from Bank of America where they're like, hey, here's a credit card. You can take $10,000 and get 0% for a year. And my mortgage happened to be held by Bank of America. So I just wrote a Bank of America check to Bank of America, and they then were able to cancel my PMI. So I forget what it was, like 100, 150 a month. And then I was able to kind of accelerate my time to debt freedom there as well. So this strategy can be applied to anything, like any debt you have at all. I did it with my car as well. It's just, you're trying to lower your overall average interest rate with the goal in mind of being that you have no debt. And as long as somebody is responsibly doing it, where like there's a plan in place of you're absolutely not going to be hit with penalties because you can't pay the credit card off and within the 0% interest period, then absolutely, like, everybody should do it. Like, interest in general is a great thing as long as you're the lender. Otherwise, it's basically like a total destroyer of wealth, and you want to get rid of it as soon as possible.
I love that. Yeah, I guess some people can't be trusted with it, but I never thought about doing that to eliminate our PMI, so that's smart. So speaking of smart hacks, I know that you like to teach yourself financial and tax hacks and then share them on your blog, and writing is a means for you to kind of deepen your knowledge. What are you learning right now? What have you been learning in the past couple weeks?
Why do you ask such hard questions?
I'm trying to be a podcast host here.
Okay, so this year will be the first year that we actually use the foreign earned income exclusion. There are some nuances of it where if your income is low, it makes little sense to actually use it. If your income is really high, then it's absolutely advantageous. And in the middle, there are trade-offs because like you say you can't contribute money to an IRA that you've excluded with the foreign earned income exclusion. And so there can be a balance, like you're trying to optimize like your total tax rate and your total like long-term planning for tax deferral and so on. So I'm basically just working through the trade-offs. I've concluded that it will definitely be to our benefit to use it this year, and so I will. And so I'll just, coming in April-ish when I get around to publishing it, I'll share like kind of the trade-offs that I've worked through and why I concluded that this year we should do it. Last year we didn't.
And just so you know, early retirees don't have to spend their days learning about taxes.
Is that true?
I think I've heard that once or twice.
So you don't actually have to spend time learning about it. You can just read my blog and I'll tell you all about it.
See, that's it. Walk on the shoulders of giants.
And this is going live in April, so it'll be perfect timing. We'll make sure we update our links when it comes out.
Yeah. So, much like Gwen is weird and likes houseboats, I'm weird and like taxes. And so, you just kind of go with what you love.
It's true. It's true. Everybody's got their own interests. For instance, my boyfriend really likes web coding. I just can't get behind that, but he's thrilled to death to do it. And it's, whatever floats your boat, whatever floats your houseboat.
Yep. Jeremy, you used to be an engineer. Do you do any coding?
Yep.
Today you do it?
No, I wasn't a coder. I was a hardware guy. But nowadays I basically try to spend as little time as possible on computers, which I'm not always successful with that, but I much prefer to be, away from the screen and doing other things.
That makes sense.
I think computers are so integrated in our societies these days that it's actually really difficult to be off technology for any stretch of time.
Yeah, I mean, like I use technology 24/7, but like after we're done here, I'm going to go on like a 50-kilometer bike ride, and I'll have my iPhone with me running Strava and like tracking the ride and all that. But I just won't like sit in front of the computer and try to optimize like my website performance for hours and hours. I just pay somebody to do that or don't do it at all.
That makes sense. So in this life of exercise and leisure and free time and taxes, what is keeping you up at night? Like, what worries do you have right now?
What? Yeah, no, I can't think of anything. I've signed up for a 200-kilometer bike race in 3 weeks. Yesterday was the first time I rode the bike in 5 weeks because it was like super cold and rainy here, and then I went on vacation to Vietnam for like 2 weeks. So I suppose I should kind of worry about, like training or something. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of wing it. But that's my deepest worry, really. I mean, everything else is kind of on autopilot. It's cool.
When you see you and Winnie old, what does that look like? Are you guys living this lifestyle still, or you'll just adjust when the time comes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what's going to happen in like June. So I suppose when we're old, we'll be doing the exact same thing. You know, like arthritis will set in, and so like we'll like warmer weather. So I suppose we'll spend more time during like places where it's summer. But like this was our dream, right? Kind of being location independent and freeing up time for, you know, non-work interests. So when you're living your dream, why do you want it to change?
That's profound.
So what type of a social life do you guys have out there? Do you have friends that you do stuff with?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, so right now we're in Taipei, which is where Winnie grew up. She has her friends that she's known since like third grade. And they all have children now around the same age as Julian, plus or minus a couple of years. And so there's like something going on every week where like they're all hanging out together. All the kids are hanging out together and doing stuff. I'm the token Caucasian guy in an Asian city, and I don't speak, like I speak Chinese, but like our 3-year-old speaks better Chinese than me, right? So like when we're in like those social situations, like I can follow the conversation, but it's difficult and like mentally exhausting. So like most of my socialization actually happens with like other expats, and I do bike rides with like bike groups, and I'll do like a weekly sort of like a, you know, bro hangout at the bar kind of thing. And it's kind of cool, like when you're in like a culture and a language that is not your experience, you know, it's different. There's a balance in like hanging out, like how much you immerse yourself in that versus like how much you kind of maintain your original culture. And so it's just nice to have a bunch of like other dudes and where we can, you know, chat about like, hey, it's kind of weird here because they do their firecracker, you know. But at the same time, like you can enjoy those things as well.
That is cool. So are you the outlier in that group? Do they even understand the early retiree thing? Are they working there? Like, what are these other guys? What are they doing there?
Yeah, so I'm definitely the outlier. Several of them are here, like just like expat gigs, you know, and it's like they brought the UK family or the American family here, right? They're just kind of living their American life in Taiwan. And then there are others who maybe have like a spouse here, or they came here for work and just never left. But none of them are sort of like early retirees, and like 99% have like no interest in the topic whatsoever.
That must be cool though, because sometimes I get kind of bored talking about money. You know, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it's nice to connect with other people on other things sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like in my normal life, I seldom ever talk about money, right? I mean, money is just like, it's just a tool, right? I mean, like, if you're a carpenter, you probably don't want to talk about like hammers all the time, right? It's a tool that just enables you to live your life the way you want to. And you don't need to talk about it or think about it all the time. So, yeah, it's nice being able to do other things.
Agreed. All right, we're running to the conclusion of this episode. Gwen, do you want to do the final two?
Yeah, sure. So, Jeremy, if people want to get in touch with you after this is over, how can they do so?
Yeah, so gocurrycracker.com is the place to be. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, also under Go Curry Cracker. And we have a new Go Curry Cracker forum where you can ask all of your questions. And it's a great way for me to basically be able to like answer a question once versus, you know, individually in email, answer the same questions 100 times. And so I encourage everybody to go there. And if you have questions or, you know, curiosities, post them there.
All right, Jay, I'll let you ask the final one.
Okay, great. Jeremy, what is your absolute wildest dream? Wild out there.
You know, I'm living it.
I thought you'd say something crazy because you guys have been to Burning Man. And I don't know, I've never been to Burning Man, but it seems wild. I thought it would be something kind of out there.
Yeah, well, before I turned 30, I lived a pretty unconventional lifestyle.
I'm not even going to ask what that means.
Okay. And I think that is a great point to close the podcast. But I second the recommendation. Go to the forum on Go Curry Cracker because Jeremy is really good at explaining things. And he was super helpful for me to understand some of important financial concepts. I don't know if you remember from Chautauqua, but you were explaining tax loss harvesting like 50 times to all of us and tax gain harvesting. And I walked away like, oh, I totally get this now. And now I know what to do. So thanks for that. So everyone should go check it out. It's super helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Go to our website, firedrillpodcast.com, to continue the discussion and get the link to our private Facebook group.
If you like us, leave us a review on iTunes. If you're like me, you have no idea how to do that. So, in the podcast app or in iTunes, search for Fire Drill Podcast, find it, click the Reviews tab, and write something to make my mother proud of me. We read every single review and want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for making this podcast possible.